He did not know that his prediction would come to pass.
And so I remember once when I was a young pastor in Liberia, I had said to the members of the church, just the young guys in the church, we were just chatting in front of Grace Baptist Church one day, and I said, I cannot go to America and live from there without planting a church for the Lord.
God's mandate was clear.
So we had a clear mandate, and then we had a clear vision.
These spiritual elements contributed to his success.
But I can't underestimate or overemphasize the importance of prayer and fasting. Yes, those two spiritual elements help us a lot. And then to be transparent.
Hello everyone, welcome again to my YouTube channel. My name is Tommy and thanks for clicking. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to become part of this growing audience. Please also like and share my videos. Thank you. Reverend Dr. Francis Tabla is my guest today. In this interview, he talks about his unbelievably remarkable journey that led to his success in building a church that worth more than 10 million United States dollars. His incredible success did not come without enormous challenges, obstacles, pitfalls, sometimes the desire to quit, but he remained steadfast. So let's get started with this life-changing, inspirational, and motivating journey of a man of God whom his community has unending respect for. Hello, Pastor Tabla. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm great. My name is Tommy, and I'm happy that you were able to give me the audience to speak with you today. So let me address you properly. Reverend Dr. Francis Tabla. So I just want to make sure that is given to you, because that's something that you earned. Again, like I said, I want to thank you for giving me the audience of coming here and allowing me to talk to you. My audience will be very, very eager to know who Dr. Tabla is. Where did you come from?
All right, once again, I'm so delighted that you are here. I'm Reverend Dr. Francis Tabla, and I'm originally from Liberia, West Africa. In Liberia, I will be from the Grebo tribe,
Okay.
the Bassa tribe, and all of the tribes.
Okay.
But I'm proud to be a Liberian, and I'm delighted to be where God has assigned me at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Come from Liberia. I know that you originated from Liberia. How many years have you been in the United States?
Well, I've been in the United States for 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
Who was Dr. Tabla back home in Liberia?
So Dr. Tabla is the second of 8 children from my mom, and the second of, I think, the same number of children from my dad.
Okay.
I grew up in a township called Kingsville, number 7. Later on, I will go on to live in Monrovia, live in Buchanan, live in Yakipa, and then I will finally attend the Booker Washington Institute, where I earned my high school diploma and a diploma in electronics. I was trying to study to be a pilot.
Okay.
But then later the Lord will call me, and then I will enroll at the Liberian Baptist Theological Seminary, where I earned a bachelor's degree in theology.
Okay.
And then I will serve as assistant pastor of the Grace Baptist Church in Bannersville for a couple of years. I will become the pastor, and then later I had the privilege to come to the United States to study, to earn my Master of Divinity degree at the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology at Virginia Union University.
Okay.
And having graduated from there, we felt the Lord leading us to plant church. And of the 7 states we surveyed, Minnesota had the potential for a church plant.
Okay.
So we came up here and started the church, Bible studies in September of 2000, and started worshiping in December of the same year. And that church has now grown from about 8 people to just about 800 people.
Wow.
And during that process, I was able to go and study to earn my doctorate degree in ministry from Luther Seminary here in St. Paul. So that's just a little summary, but I'll go into depth as you ask me other questions.
Okay. Well, thank you. It must have been a very challenging role coming from Liberia, getting adapted to a new society. I want to believe there were lots of obstacles in adapting to a new environment and then having this vicious plan to plant a church. And I want to believe you are led by God. What is the motivation behind you planting a church here in Minnesota, and why Minnesota?
Yes, so I remember once when I was a young pastor in Liberia, I had said to the members of the church, just the young guys in the church, we were just chatting in front of Grace Baptist Church one day, and I said, I cannot go to America and leave from there without planting a church for the Lord, and they said, be careful what you say.
Right.
So I said that just in passing, and then we came to the United States to study, and our plan was to return to Liberia. But then the political situation in Liberia was not calmly. I had gone through the Civil War and then came to study, and so we wanted to go back home, but all of our friends, our relatives from Liberia, the friends we had made here in America, said, Francis, we know you love your country, but it's not expedient that you go back now, considering the war, And so we started to pray and ask God what to do.
Okay.
And in our prayer, the Lord told us, start a work in North America to reach out to Liberians. And he didn't say anything more than that. So then we felt, well, where are Liberians? So we did the survey. We surveyed in Atlanta, Carolina, Rhode Island, Philadelphia, New York, Virginia. The last state we surveyed was Minnesota. And our survey results in 2000 at the time showed that there were about 20,000 Liberian immigrants in Minnesota.
At the time?
At the time. You're talking about January of 2000. And so we went back to Virginia, put our survey results together, and everything was pointing to Minnesota. So that's how we moved to Minnesota upon my graduation from seminary in Virginia. We didn't really have to pray much about coming to Minnesota. We prayed much about what God's plans were, but coming to Minnesota, all of the indicators were there. This was the place to go.
This was the place.
Yeah, so we came and we started the Bible study.
Okay.
And it's been a wonderful journey over the years. Not void of challenges, like you said. There were many challenges. I mean, sometimes the temptation was to throw in the towel, to just quit. But, based on the mandate we got from God, from John 17, 15, where the Bible says, you have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you that you may go and bear fruit, that your fruit should remain. Right. John 15, 16. So, that has been our biblical basis for the vision up here in Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you about that. Pastor, I lived here in Minnesota for 17 years before I moved out of here. I have seen over the years the proliferation of Liberian churches. Every corner you go to, school buildings, and what have you, you see Liberians there with churches whose membership ranges from between 10 to 20 to 40 people. How come Ebenezer Church has managed to gain the kind of population it has?
Yes, well, there are several factors. One of them, we had a clear mandate from God when he said, go and start a work. He said, go and start a work that will reach out to Liberians. And so when we came to Minnesota, our target group was Liberian. Yeah, and we had a lot of slap in the face from some of our peers in the ministry. And they said, I can't come to America and start a Liberian church. And, some of them were ridiculing us. What they didn't understand was that when God told us to start a church that would reach out to Liberians, it was a church planting strategy to get the core group of people. All right? And so we're being obedient to the voice of God.
Okay.
Some of them who confronted me, I said basically to them, when God was calling me, you were not there. I received the vision, not you.
Not you.
And so about 2 years into the plant, because we were called Liberian Community Church, about 2 years into the plant, then things started happening in the church. And now we were getting to understand that when he said, reach out to Liberians, it was a church planting strategy. So about 2 years into the plant, we changed the name from Liberian Community Church to Ebenezer.
To Ebenezer Community Church.
But those Liberians, those core group of Liberians we had, are the ones who God will use to bring 11 more nations in the church. So right now we are 12 nations in Ebenezer Community Church.
When you say 12 nations, when you said nations, what are you referring to?
Those are the nations that are represented in the church. We have members from Ghana, from Guinea, from Haiti, from Jamaica, from Kenya, Liberia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Togo, Uganda, and the United States.
Wow. They constitute the membership of this church.
Membership of the church. So even though we started as Liberians, but it was a church planting strategy that God will use.
That God will use.
Yeah. And then, so that's one factor. The factor, like I said, was we had a clear mandate, and then we had a clear vision. You know, I'm sure you have in your hand there my book, Plan Your Work and Work Your Plan.
Right.
You know, we came to America with a clear vision. We came to study, but we said if God gave us the opportunity to plant a church, we would do that. And having had pastoral experience from back home for years, serving at Grace Baptist Church, that helped us to be able to do church in America. And then when we came to plant church, we had to go through church planting orientation. We went through training with our American counterparts. Because, you know, you can't do ministry in America like you do in Africa. There are some things that you have to change. Okay. And so my wife and I had the great opportunity to go and do church planting orientation as to how you can do church work here in the United States and how you can set, you know, your budget, how you can plan your long range plans, your medium range plans, your short range plans. You know, so all of those things were laid out, and then we began to pursue them. And then the other factor that has helped us to grow is the fact that we have, I say PhD, prayer, dedication, and hard work. We have worked hard. Ministry is not for lazy people. All right. You lived here in Minnesota. You saw how we started with just a handful of people. But we prayed. We worked hard. We're very dedicated. There was a time I left my job just to focus on the church plant, and it was a difficult time for my family. But I knew that if we devoted our time to the work, it would grow. All right. So my wife worked, and I was full-time pastor. Sometimes we didn't have gas. We didn't have the kind of a food we like to eat, but we made that sacrifice. Today, I'm a full-time pastor. My wife is a part-time. We have almost 14 people who are staff, part-time staff.
Great. You know, in establishing the church, you wrote in your book here, you said that step by step, he walked. Now, you wrote this part in the third person.
That's the forward by the...
That's the forward. By
Dr. Leo Indo, yeah.
He said that step by step, he worked. They planned despite detractors and distractions, pitfalls, and potholes. In the end, Dr. Tabla led recent immigrants to establish his congregation, buy land, secure lands, or loans rather, and build a facility value in excess of $10 million. What set you aside from our Liberian brothers that are establishing churches just within the same environment and they did not see their churches grow? What is the magic? I know you talk about your vision. What set you aside?
Well, honestly, I don't want to say anything that would be denigrating to my brothers and sisters who are in the ministry.
Okay.
I can just speak for myself. Again, we came to Minnesota with a mandate, and we decided not to be distracted. And we decided to pursue that mandate with everything on the inside of us. You talk about putting the family through some difficult time. Can you imagine you have a young wife and you're just raising a young family and you will leave your job, all right, to go to full-time ministry.
The full-time ministry.
Where to the point sometimes you don't even have gasoline in your car. You don't have money to buy McDonald's for your kids. But we put that full-time into ministry, and so it gave us more opportunity to plan and to strategize. When I was working at night at Kinko's, by the time I came home, I would be sleeping. I would not have time to pray much. I wouldn't have time to strategize. By the time the day breaks, you look, I'm getting ready to go back to work. But when I left the job, I had more time to pray, more time to strategize, more time to go out to do evangelism. We used to go to the apartment complexes to do door-to-door evangelism. Have more time to pray, fast, strategize, follow up with people. In our community at the time, many people were dealing with immigration issues. Carry them to the immigration hearings. Carry people to apply for jobs. Carry people for interview. Carry people for medical appointments.
In the process of planning this church or strategizing, you were doing
all of that. So all of those things, the people saw that they had a pastor who cared for them, who was with them at all times. All right.
Okay.
And so that began to help us to grow.
To grow.
Yeah. And then of course your own interpersonal relationship with people. In the ministry, sometimes the sheep, the members of the church, can get you agitated. And if you don't know how to respond, you may drive them away.
I think part of that will help you is steadfastness.
Yes.
You said it right here in your book. You said God has blessed us with many platforms and opportunities that we would have never had outside of steadfastness.
Exactly. Yes, because sometimes when we got started, we go to Bible studies. It's just about 6 people. And you ask yourself, did God really say we should come and plant this church? Because you go and prepare to come and teach or preach, and few people show up. But we have to be steadfast. We just knew that this was where God sent us, and God was going to grow the church. We knew it. Like I said, we didn't have to pray much to come to Minnesota. We prayed much to determine what God's will was for us in America. But to come to Minnesota, all of the indicators were there. This is the place you should go. In fact, when we came to do the survey, I had already met people in Minnesota who used to be either members of the church that I pastored back home, or who were members of churches that I used to preach revivals at in Liberia, or former students, former soccer players, former schoolmates. They were all here.
Right.
So all of those factors. But I can't underestimate or overemphasize the importance of prayer and fasting. Yes, those 2 spiritual elements help us a lot. And then to be transparent.
Transparency.
Yeah, when I did my doctorate degree was in biblical preaching with emphasis in stewardship. So I learned how to teach people stewardship. I learned how to raise money.
Right.
Yeah,
That's very vital. That's very key.
I learned how to teach people to give. The members of Ebenezer Community Church, a good number of them are faithful tithers. You wouldn't believe the amount of money that Africans in this church, Liberians, Africans can give on a yearly basis because they have been taught stewardship and they have seen transparency from me and my wife. All right? We don't tell them give and we don't give. No, we are always on the higher end of the giving. If you're going to select 3 families or the 5 families in the church that will give the highest, you will always find my wife and myself in that group. We lead by example. All right. So all of those things help. And then we make reports. We make financial reports to our church members. We have conference. They come and they see what the money is being used for. We make reports. Yeah, we are accountable to people. We make ourselves accountable to a leadership team.
Pastor, that is very key that you made that point. That's very important that you made that point because, in the work of God, people expect you to be this very, very perfect person. And that every little thing that you do, we live in a society where criticism can just come out of somebody's mouth easily. So it's important that transparency, you couldn't stress on that more. You talk about transparency. That's very key. That's very important. So now that you've won the heart of your people, and for this reason, your church continues to prevail.
Absolutely. One of the things I love about Ebenezer Community Church is that me and my wife, we are the founding pastors. So we, by the grace of God, created the culture in the church. All right. So that means we and the people grew together. Yes, you have people in the church who have been in the church for 23 years. The church started 23 years ago, and they have been in the church for all those years. So we have all grown together as a family. We've grown together as people. Even those who came the past 10 years or the past 5 years, we are still growing together as a family. All right. It's different when you're going to take over a church that already has a culture. All right. No, but we here set the culture.
We set the culture.
Yeah.
That's great.
And part of it that was based upon our pastoral experience from back in Africa. Yeah.
Wow. That is really good. You did say that in part of the discussion here that there were times where things were hard. It was very difficult. I just want to emphasize again or reiterate what really made you to not break away. Was that time where you just wanted to break away?
There were times that I wanted to quit because it was very tough.
Quit. Yeah.
We came, in fact, when we came to Minnesota, we brought some money. Our friends blessed us with some money from Virginia to get the church started and just move on. But then when we came to Minnesota, at that time, you couldn't get an apartment if you were not working. And wherever we went, and I told the people I'm a church planter, and they said, no, we have to see your pay stub. So I had to get into the workforce. And when I got into the workforce, my income and my wife's income constituted our life, support.
Right.
And so when I had to leave the job to pay full attention to the church, a whole income was being taken away. So that was a tough time for my family. My wife's media income, had to pay our rent, take care of our kids. And like I said, sometimes we just didn't have.
Yeah.
So it was tough. So that part was there. And then, of course, you get a young church planted. People are not as enthusiastic. People are still trying to check you out. And so some of those days we went, just a handful of people, then the devil starts to suggest to you, you show, this was something God called you to do. You were working, you were making money, and you left your job to, so that was a tough time, but like I said, one of the things about me is that I'm very skeptical. I'm a skeptic when it comes to dealing with God, my relationship with God. And when I say skeptic, what I mean is that I want to make sure that I heard from God. Yes, when I am convinced that God has spoken to me, I will follow it with everything on the fiber of my being, because I know God will not lie to me. And over the years, that has helped me. So when those times of discouragement came, then I will remember what God said: you have not chosen me. I have chosen you and ordained you that you might go and bear fruit.
Amen.
And whatsoever you will ask the Father in my name, He will give it.
Right.
So then I will recalibrate and I'll refocus and I will go on and so the Lord began to honor our faith. He began to honor our hard work. I tell people that God is a good investor. God will not just give you everything right away. He wants to make sure that you are matured. He wants to make sure that you are molded, grounded, rooted, and established, that He began to release some of those blessings. If God had blessed us to build this building, when we first attempted to build in 2007, I think I would have lost myself. I was going to be arrogant. I was going to be boisterous. Yes, but we took 11 years in the wilderness before we got the first loan to build. During that time, the Lord taught us how to be humble. He taught us how to be prayerful. The Lord taught us a lot of lessons during those 11 years of wilderness experience. Now, we don't have anything to brag about. We don't have anything to be arrogant about. We don't have anything to be boisterous about, because the Lord has taught us the spirit of humility. All right. So yes, I'm pastoring a big church. My wife is the first lady. But when you come here, you see us, we are just humble people. Unless they say that's the first lady, you will not know, because she's cleaning up, she's working with the ushers, the people that clean up, I help to clean up too. We have just learned to be humble.
Right.
So the Lord taught us those lessons.
You know, I can attest to that, Pastor. To God be the glory for the kind of person you are, because like you know, I've lived here for so many years, and I've seen that humble spirit inside of you. That's one of the reasons why when I developed the channel, or when I created this channel, you were on my mind, because I say I want my audience to see a humble man who is successful in winning souls for Christ, and yet and still, you never know he's a pastor if he's standing everywhere, standing among people. You know, that boisterous nature is not there. So I want to say thank you for all of that. To really, how are you? I see that you have a young family. How are they doing with this whole thing?
Yes, so my family has been very supportive. Our oldest son, Samuel, was born in Liberia, and we came to the U.S. when he was just 1 year old. But he and the next boy, Joshua, by the way, Sam is in the Navy. Josh graduated from Oral Roberts University. He's the assistant youth director here at the church. Okay. Our daughter, the third, Twetty, her grade name is Twetty. She's Christy. She's a senior student now at the University of Wisconsin River Falls. And then our twin boys just graduated from high school. They're going to be going to college and maybe into the service. All of these kids have been very, very supportive in the ministry. All of them have worked hard. I mean, my son, Samuel, when we were in the high school, he would help to set up the equipment, tear it down. He would learn how to play the bass guitar, the rhythm guitar rather. Joshua plays the organ, he plays the drums, he plays the bass guitar. Christy, the girl, plays the bass guitar, and she helps to run the media team. The twin boys, they do sound. All of them have been involved in the ministry, and the Lord has really helped us to be able to keep our kids disciplined. And you know, sometimes pastors' kids have bad reputation out there. But God has been very kind to us to help us raise these kids, and they're doing very well. People love them. They are in the church. They help. They try to be examples at school, in the community, and so forth. So it was not easy to be able to balance the family and church, but I thank God for my wife too. She's been very supportive, and we've been able to work together to keep the family at the same time do well in ministry. Yeah.
You have, I want to believe you have pastors that are assisting you in this journey.
Oh, absolutely. We do now have, we have about 7 pastors on our staff, part-time. All of them are part-time. You know, we have other ministers who are either licensed, you know, and so forth, who are leading other ministries of the church. Yes, with a church this size, about 800 people, in a big building, 34,000 square feet, you definitely need to have people on staff to help you with the ministry.
To help you with the ministry.
Yeah.
How has that been going?
It's been going well. Prior to our building, our first phase, I can say it was very tough, you know, because here we were, a young church with this overly ambitious vision to buy land. The land was $745,000 US to buy land, and then to build the first phase about $4 million. And then you kept running into obstacles, so that and then people were very suspicious of me. People were saying, you know, that man is just collecting the people money. They don't know he and his wife would run away from America. So all that pressure was there. You know, you can see those years I used to be looking so skinny. Right. Because the pressure was there. We have announced that this is something God laid on our heart, and the expectation is there, and things are not happening as you want them to. So it was very stressful. Yes. Oh, my brother, I mean, it was difficult for me to go to certain gatherings, because when I got there, people would start murmuring, "Yeah, he comes. That's the guy there who collecting money from people." And sometimes I go to cut my hair. People don't know I'm the pastor of the church, and they are talking about me.
Talking about you.
You know, and funeral repast, you know, people are talking about this pastor that's collecting money. So as a human, you know, that pressure is there. But, you know, God was just taking his own time, and when he got ready, he opened the door for us to get the loan to build the first phase. And after that, I want to say my stress level reduced
because people started seeing the results.
Yeah, it was, you know. So I told the church the most difficult part of the project was behind us because we had built the first phase. That even banking institutions now could see that, you know, these people, you know, we shouldn't overlook them. The main business.
Yes.
Yeah, and so for us to get the loan to build the second phase, which was $6 million, there were many financial institutions that were, you know, hoping that we could be able to use them. We got disappointed by one, but eventually God made things work in our favor that we're able to get the loan to build the second phase. But I can tell you right now, I feel much better than prior to building. Because prior to building, I had to deal with the pressure of being ridiculed, people being suspicious of you and whatnot. But I don't deal with that anymore. I deal with different problem now, and that is to raise money to pay off the mortgage.
Pay off the mortgage.
That's the problem I deal with now. You know. So, yeah.
Which, of course, by the grace of God, you will get that money for sure.
Oh, absolutely. The Lord is working along with us in the process, and our church members are very generous. We have good people in the community. You know, one of the things I want to mention is that our community was very kind to us. You have people who, in the midst of all the naysayers, we had some people who believed in the vision, and so they would come to me, give me cash, $1,000 cash. I would meet people in the grocery store. They would go to the ATM machine, take money, and give it to me. Say, Pastor Tabla, this is our contribution to the project. After we built the first phase, those who were unbelievers in this project being successful, they started bringing their contributions. And we said, it's not late. We'll use it for the next phase. You know, but I can tell you, it was tough. If you see my photos, before we built the first phase, if you see my photos and you see me now, you see the difference. Yeah, stress, you know, is tough. But I thank God for those difficult times because it helped us to be patient and to trust God more.
What are the programs that the church provides for the community?
Oh, definitely. You hear our name, right? Ebenezer Community Church.
Yes.
So we do everything from social service ministries, such as, you know, when the immigration issue was a serious problem, our church was in the forefront, working with the community to raise funds, to send people to Washington, D.C., to lobby. We'll go to Capitol Hill. We will have the community gather here to do fundraising or rallies, you know, to get immigration reprieve. During the course of the coronavirus, we provided food to the community. We did food distribution here. We partnered with a group out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we distributed about $60,000 worth of food to the community, black, white, you just name it. Wow. Then we had our church used as coronavirus vaccine center. So people were coming here to take vaccines. You know, we work with Hennepin, we work with Atlanta Health, we work with the Liberian Nurses Association. All right, and then as God will have it, you came today when we were just wrapping up our vacation Bible school.
Oh, you have a Bible school here?
No,
vacation. Sorry.
Yeah, vacation Bible school. I will come to the Bible school later. So we open our church and we have vacation Bible school for the community, not just our church members, but kids from the community come. We had about 98 students here. This is our first return to vacation Bible school since the corona. And to have about 80 kids here 98 kids here, that was very impressive. And we look forward to more growth. So then we do youth-based program. We have a very good youth program here at Ebenezer Community Church. Then we have something called Professional Development Network, where we have some of our members who are very trained, and they help people to put their resumes together so that it can be compelling to get good jobs, well-paying jobs. All right. We do that. We now have a Bible school where people who don't have the time to go to a regular Bible college or seminary, they can come to the Ebenezer Theological Institute and get a diploma in biblical training.
Is it accredited?
Well, we have a relationship with the Golden Guild Seminary out of California.
Okay.
So if you take courses with us, you are like taking courses with them.
With them. Oh,
Yeah, and then we do church planting. Right now, we have the Ebenezer Community Church of Bloomington. All right, that's our first church plant.
Okay.
We have the Ebenezer Community Church of St. Paul. That's the second church plant in the U.S. We have 3 churches in Liberia now. We have the Ebenezer Community Church of Douazon, Ebenezer Community Church of Graceland, Mount Barkley. Then we have the Ebenezer Community Church of Kakata. We have 2 churches in Sierra Leone now. I should say 1.5 church plants. So we got Ebenezer Community Church of Freetown. And then the Freetown branch has planted another branch in another city. Right now, we just came back from Kenya. We went there for about 18 days to do what we call mission assessment to see how we can be able to plant some churches in Kenya. And the prospects there is very high.
Very high.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we got some groundwork being done. And soon you will be hearing that we do have some church plants in Kenya. All right. Our next major focus is Ghana.
Okay.
So basically what we're doing, brother, is that the nations that are represented in the church, we believe in God to plant churches in those nations. Okay. If God opened doors to other nations to us, that's fine. But the nations that are represented in the church are the ones we're targeting first.
Targeting first.
Yeah. And we do a lot of other things for the community. Last year, the gun violence was very prevalent in our community. And we brought the community here through the partnership with the city of Brooklyn Park and Minnesota Acts now to have a conversation here as to how we can, address the gun violence issue in the community. All right. So we do several things as the need arises. Either the city of Brooklyn Park will call upon us, Hennepin County, they came and partner with us to distribute vaccine, or maybe the OLM or the Liberian Nurses Association, they'll come to partner with us. As a matter of fact, this Sunday, we're going to be partnering with ASA, all right? And they're going to have some conversation with regards to what are the perceptions that people have about the coronavirus vaccines and so forth. Okay. They need to get some data to be able to strategize, on reaching people. Okay. So yes, we do a lot with the community.
With the community.
Yeah.
If somebody would ask out there, they said, what kind of church is Ebenezer Community Church? What would you say? Pentecostal, Baptist? What is it?
So in our affiliation, we affiliate with Baptists, but in our composition, we are ecumenical. All right? When we come to plant church in America, you are advised to affiliate with an established entity. Okay. All right? It's good to go independent, but one of the advantages that we had, because I'm a Baptist minister from back home. Okay. So at the time, I was the pastor, so the group that I knew was the group that I aligned with. And what that does for you is you get the kind of a training that you're supposed to have. So like I mentioned before, the Baptist group was able to take us through real church planters training. They assigned me to a mentor, somebody who has been a pastor in the States for years. He mentored me. Francis, I know you from Liberia, you pastored there for years, but this is how it's done in America.
In America, yes.
So that helped us a lot. And also, because of our alignment, we were getting some support. They will give you some support for 3 years and they phase it down and you get to that place where you get on your own. So now we give support to the convention. We don't receive support from them anymore. We give now to help to plant churches. Okay. So in our composition, I said we are ecumenical. What that means is we have all of the denominations in the church. Okay. We are Baptists, Methodists, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, Lutherans, Assemblies of God. You just name it. We are all in the church.
So you call it interdenominational?
No,
Would that be or no?
we are ecumenical.
Ecumenical.
Means
Ecumenical meaning
all the different denominations
put together.
Are in the church.
How different is it from interdenominational then?
Well, if an interdenominational church doesn't have any alignment with any established.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, in our practice, so in our affiliation, we affiliate with Baptists. I mean, we could affiliate with Catholic, other denominations, but in our case, we have an affiliation with Baptists.
Baptists, yeah.
And then in our composition, like I said, we are ecumenical. But in our practice, we are more charismatic.
Is that kind of Pentecostal?
Yes. It's almost like, we are Africans, right?
Right,
we
right.
Dance,
we dance, we sing,
yeah.
we shout.
We shout.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are more proactive. Yeah, we are more charismatic in we stick to the Bible. The Bible is our central authority. But in our practice, we are more charismatic because of our experience from our Afrocentricity, from our African ethnic backgrounds. So so it's an interesting mix up, and I'm happy for the way that we operate because the Episcopalians can find a place here, Methodists, Baptists, all these different groups can find a sense of belonging.
Okay, great. I'll ask you two last questions, perhaps. I hope so. Are you open up to helping other young pastors who would just want guidance from you? I just want the public to know.
Oh, absolutely. I do a lot of consultations, not just from African pastors, but even African American pastors, some Caucasian pastors. They are amazed at what God has. In fact, do you know that there are some people who don't believe that this building is ours?
Up to now?
Yeah, they come and they say, oh, I mentioned that in my book, Scrap Racism. I mentioned that in my book.
Okay.
They come and they say, oh, we are looking for we want to talk to the owners of this building. So I say, well, we are the owners. Then they say, no, we are looking for the real owners. Yeah, so.
Wow.
Yeah, so Americans, African Americans, they are amazed at what God has done here. And so some of them come for consultation. And I do that because I believe that's one of the reasons why God took us through the experience, so that we can be able to learn, information to people who are. So the short answer to your question, yes, I do consultation. As a matter of fact, when we built the first phase and we dedicated the building, the next day I had a pastoral meeting where pastors came, and the experienced pastors that came to be our speakers, we all provided information to the other pastors as to how you can have this done for your church as well. And we are always willing. Unfortunately, a good number of the people that come to consult with me are not from our community. I would think that a good number of our pastors will come to talk to me since I'm their fellow Liberian or African. Yeah, but a good number of the people that come are not Liberians. Few Liberians will come, but a good number of the people that come to talk with me are Americans, African Americans, or other Africans from different countries.
Oh, interesting.
And I would hope, for those Liberians that are watching this, I would hope that you will come and sit with me because I have something to offer. It's not a matter of pride. I'm not being prideful.
Yeah.
I'm just being realistic.
Being realistic, yeah.
the evidence is there to show that God has worked through our lives over the years to be able to do something like this. So if you want to come and talk with me, I'll be glad to share information with you and give you some ideas on how we have been able to grow, as a church. There are different evangelism strategies that the Lord has given us over the years to use to engender growth.
It's clear that the church is growing, Pastor, with all the branches. We have plenty around the world. I would say that targeting your first group of people, the 8 nations. You said 8 nations?
12.
12 nations. You're trying to put churches into those places. Eventually, Ebenezer will be worldwide. What that makes you? A bishop?
Yes, people ask me the question all the time.
Okay.
And I don't like to be called a bishop. It's not that it's wrong. A bishop is like an overseer. Yeah, I'm actually an overseer. I oversee the churches, but I like to be called Pastor Tabla. Yeah,
That is coming from your humility.
yeah,
Honestly.
or now that I have a doctorate degree, which I earned, I don't mind being called Dr. Tabla. I just love being called Pastor Tabla more than being called a bishop. Now, everywhere I go, people call me bishop. The churches in Liberia, they call me bishop. They say our general overseer is here. Church in Sierra Leone, the same thing. Kenya, we haven't planted churches there yet, but the pastors that we met, they already started calling me bishop. So God will have to actually speak to me to make that transition. But for now, I prefer to be called Pastor Tabla. Yeah.
Pastor Tabla.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much. Just one last word to our young people who are struggling today with difficult problems, who really may not know God. What would you say to them?
I just want you to know that I've been there. I had a difficult upbringing. I'm from an underprivileged background. I was so much from an underprivileged background that I made up my mind I would not be a pastor. I wanted to let me say it this way. I wanted to either be a marine man to work on the ship because I was little. I heard that, marine men, they make their money, but they on the ship, they don't spend it.
Right.
So that was the idea.
That was the idea at the time. Me too. Boy. And
So I either be a marine man or I'll be a pilot. I wanted to be a pilot so that when I went to be there, I studied electronics as my fundamentals to aviation. And my understanding of being a pilot was I would make a lot of money by flying planes, but then I would go to a lot of places without paying because I'm the pilot.
Yeah.
My last thing close to ministry was, if I'm not a pilot, I'm not a marine man, I will be an Episcopal priest. And the reason why I wanted to be an Episcopal priest because I was just infatuated with, the way the priest dressed at that time. I was in the Episcopal church and my bishop was the late Bishop George D. Brown. Archbishop George D. Brown.
Yeah, Archbishop, yeah.
And I just loved, when that man dresses and he put on his vestments and he's marching with the rod. I said, I will be an Episcopal priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But God had a different plan for you.
But anyway. But I was from an underprivileged background and I felt that I should get in a field that would earn money so that I can, to compensate for my underprivileged background. But God had different plans for me. But I struggled. My mother had 8 children and she had 1 bedroom. And we all 8 kids were living with my mom in Buchanan in 1 bedroom. Me and my brothers would gather up in the morning and we would split wood from morning to evening on Saturdays. And my hands would be blistered. The bruises would be in my hand. There was a time in my life I used to be ashamed to shake people's hands because my hands were so rough from splitting wood.
Wow.
I went barefooted for some time, selling wood, selling coal, selling cigarettes, you just name it. So life was tough. There was a time in my life my brother and I shared the same uniform. I went to school in the morning and I ran home after school, took up the uniform and gave it to my younger brother, and he put that same uniform on and went to afternoon school.
Interesting.
Yes, in Buchanan, it happened. So things were tough. And if anybody is going through a tough time, I want you to know that tough times don't last always, but tough people do last by the grace of God. And so because of that underprivileged background and many challenges I went through in life, God helped me to be able to identify with people. Yes, the Lord has helped me to have a heart to identify with people. And I just want you to know that God is able to change your circumstance around. Look at me.
Amen.
Where I'm from in Liberia, I tell people you have to have a geographical microscope to find the place. It's so obscure. All right? But God has brought me and my family from obscurity to now being in the category of historians. So if you want to say, okay, let's look at the history of Liberians that have gone to America and what they have done. you cannot leave out the name of Francis Tabla. It's not possible because Francis Tabla is the one God used to be the first Liberian to lead a church to buy land and build a building that is worth over 10 million US dollars. It has never happened before.
Never.
All right. I know of my brother, Dr. Theo Besman in Texas. His first phase was about $500,000. His second phase was 1.3 million. He's the first Liberian I know that built from ground up. And he was my consultant. I consulted with him when we were getting ready to build. But our first phase was 4 million. Our second phase, 6 million.
Wow.
So the point I'm making here is not to brag or to bring attention to myself, but what I'm trying to say is God can take you from nowhere and put you somewhere if you give him the opportunity or the privilege to do so. And that's what we did. We gave our lives over to the Lord, and the Lord decided, okay, I will use you to do something different. So all the time we were here, there was a time we wanted to buy a building. It didn't work out. And we have come to believe that God didn't want us to buy a building. He wanted us to buy land and build to make a difference. All right. So now this is not just for the Tabla family, but this is also a pride for Liberian. All right. So, okay, a Liberian has helped us to get on the map, but it's also a pride for the entire African diaspora. You know, almost on a weekly basis, people come from out of state or out of the country and they come to see this church because they have heard about it and they don't believe and they want to see for themselves. Yeah, so we get guests here all the time. And some of our leaders, political leaders, when they come to Minnesota, they want to come and worship here because they heard of what God has done. And we give all of the glory to God, not to me, not to my wife, to God. And we thank God for the resilience and the determination of the membership of the church. I have a lot of respect for the people because some of them were harassed on their jobs. People told them, you're just behind that guy, he will take your money and run away. But they said, no, we believe our pastor is real. So I have a lot of respect for them. And predominantly Liberians, predominantly before the other nations came, the other nations started coming to the church. I want to say we were just about 2 or 3 nations before we built our first phase. After that, before the other nations started coming. But there's a psychology in working with Liberians, and if you know that psychology, you can get them to do anything. People complain about Liberians. They say, oh, Liberians are cantankerous people, they're confucionists, they're no good. I beg to differ. Liberians, they want to see a strong leader. They want to see a leader who is transparent, and they want to see a leader who will set example. All right? Most of the members of this church are from Liberia. All right? But they have been able to see a leader who is strong, who means what he says and he says what he means. A leader who set example and a leader who is transparent. So for example, when we say our worship service starts at 11, our worship service starts at 11. When we say the wedding is going to start 3 p.m., the wedding will start 3 p.m.
So there's nothing like Liberian time or African time?
We don't. In fact, people who get married at our church, they put money down for lateness. Before we even do your counseling, you will deposit money for lateness. If you are late, you don't get that money back.
That puts pressure on them.
Exactly. So we don't try to do things the Liberian way. I know we are Liberians, but we don't try to do things the Liberian way because sometimes it just shows unseriousness.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to believe that if you know how to work with Liberians, you can get a lot. People complain about Liberians, but for me, I say we know we can accomplish stuff. And Ebenezer Community Church is a prime example of how you can work with Liberians and you can accomplish something together.
Great.
Yeah.
Pastor, you have a lot of work on your hands, it seems. Yet you are still an author.
Yeah. Yes.
How many books have you written, if you don't mind? And how did you navigate through all of that?
Yeah, so writing is my passion. That's one of the reasons why I decided that I will go and get a terminal degree. I will go and get a doctorate degree because I wanted to do writing. And in the real world, people want to know what authority you have to address certain issues.
To address certain issues.
Yes, so I went to good schools in America. I went to one of the historic black universities, that would be Virginia. And then I went to one of the leading seminaries in the world, Luther Seminary. That's where I got my doctorate. So I have been writing as far back as I can remember. I love writing. I saw my father writing all the time, so I picked up that habit. So I have written 3 books. My first book was published in 2010. It's called My Golden Rule, How Men Should Treat Women. And at the time, that was about 35 years of my observation on how men treat women in Africa, Liberia, and here in the United States. So I wrote that book. The Lord blessed me to write it. And that was our seed to the church when we published that book. We said it was our first fruit, so we gave it to the church. So all of the proceeds that have come from that book have been going to the church to help pay off the mortgage. My second book is Scrap Racism. This book here was written when George Floyd got killed. The people of our community and our church members were in fear and trepidation. People were so afraid. You could see the uncertainty on their faces as to what would happen. And the Lord gave me a message to preach, to encourage our people to get hope and be steadfast. And the morning I was coming to preach this message at the church, the Spirit of God said, then you should turn it into a manuscript for a book. So this book called Scrap Racism. And basically SCRAP is an acronym, and what it means is to speak up against racism, to call up people to join us, to rise up with sustained resilience, to act up, and to pray up. SCRAP, S-C-R-A-P, SCRAP.
Okay.
So yes, so this is my second book. It was published in 2020, and then this is my recent book there.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, this one is Plan Your Work and Work Your Plan.
Plan your work and work your plan, yeah.
So yes. So this book here is my experiences from planning from the time I was 13 years old. When I was 13 years old, I had already planned what I wanted to be in life, who I wanted to get married to, if I came to America, where will I stay, and so forth. So all of my plans, I started planning at the early age of 13, and a good number of those plans have been realized. Some of them, they were not something that God wanted me to do, so God made some adjustments, and I'm glad that I pursue or follow God's plan because it worked out well for me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but people ask me, so how all this happen? Plan your work and work your plan. When you have a plan and you work with it by the help of God, you can accomplish much more than if you don't have a plan. So there are some basic principles in this book. Some of the nuts and bolts of planning that people don't consider. They're in this book. I'm the author of this book, but I'm telling you, there are some insightful insights in this book that just blow my mind away because it was inspiration from the Holy Spirit, but also experience over the years.
Over the years, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a long read. It's just about 45 pages, but very good. Now, some pastors have bought this book and they're teaching, their church leaders are studying the book together. Some families, I met a lady at a barbecue and she told me, Pastor Tabla, my family, when we're doing our family time, it is your book we read chapter by chapter. It's $13.95. It's on Amazon and other platforms. But yeah, so because I love writing, even though I do all that I have to do as a pastor, but I devote some time to writing. Yeah, and I do have some other books by the grace of God that will be coming up too. So yes.
Okay.
By the way, I'm going to autograph one of these books for you.
Oh, thank you.
The other one, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, Pastor, I just want to take this time to thank you for opening your doors to me again and for giving me that opportunity to speaking with me and allowing the world out there to hear you and to know you. People that have never heard of you. Thank God that I have audiences that are in Australia, Europe, Canada, and what have you, in Africa as well. So I thank you. And I look forward to seeing more coming out of you. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you do, because I believe that when others watch this recording, they will be inspired to see that, my fellow African can go to America and he can be used by God in such a way. Right. These things can inspire people.
Definitely.
Because, especially for those of us who are from Liberia, where people have the pseudo misconception that nothing good can come from all of Liberia. I don't know why they say that, but here is a classic example. And God is doing some incredible things. This coming Sunday and next Sunday, I'm going to be preaching at Turner Chapel AME Church in Marietta, Georgia, where a Liberian, Dr. Taiwo Bright, as far as I know, he's the first Liberian who pastors a 5,000 membership church in the United States. And sometimes people don't know these things. All right?
I didn't know that either.
Oh, yes, I'm going to be preaching for him next Sunday. All right? But they have a church that was built for over $25 million. All right? I mean, the previous pastor led the congregation to build. The previous pastor was from the island, all right, Trinidad.
Okay, Trinidad, okay.
Yeah, and so now Dr. Bright is the pastor of that church, but he's a Liberian, and he's the first Liberian that I know in the history of church, Liberian church clergyman, who is pastoring a congregation in one setting that has 5,000 members. Wow. See? So all of these things.
And I know that there's a Liberian. I wish I would have the opportunity. So if he hears me, I want to talk to him. That we have a Liberian mayor in Brooklyn Park or Brooklyn Center.
We used to have a mayor, but he was not re-elected. Mayor Elliott, yeah. And we had a councilman Winfred Russell as well of Brooklyn Park.
Okay.
But yeah, they were not re-elected. But yeah, so I pray that people be inspired to know that God can do it for you too. If you have a plan, because the Bible says we should commit our plans to the Lord, He will grant the desire of our heart. So,
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. Yeah. Do you want more of this content? Please subscribe, like, and hit the notification button. And hope to see you in my next video.